Here we are at our latest SP character. Lanford is the most recent one, and the buff that they gave him is insanely good. It turned him into a tank with strong supports for just being right next to him. To be more precise, he's an offensive support tank. Or he can just be a support damage dealer, support tank. He does those very well. So let's kick things off to talk about what his new buffs are, what he's capable of, and how to build them. So with this new talent, of course we got the usual skill cost ignore, as well as damage increase. Increases all stats by 50% for allies within 2 blocks, and allies with mixed forces get 5% more increase, as well as attacking first when initiating battle. After taking action, he can choose to change the hero class type into a Lancer. That gives him -2 mobility, so there'll be 3 in his form. And in that class, his damage taken is reduced by 20% that cannot be dispelled and ignores immunity, which can be cancelled after using the skill again. So yeah, that thing does not have any cooldown. His new class becomes a flyer. So overall, it's just a massive, huge change. You now get a lot more benefit, especially if you are in mixed forces, and you can easily switch in between playstyles. Flyers are usually the more offensive class type, and Lancer are usually the more defensive ones. Plus, when you add the exclusive and especially the casting skill on top of all of this as well, it becomes so much easier to play around him, and it actually feels worth it to do so. Whereas Mastery Stones, for the armor you want HP, attack, and defense, headwear the same thing, although however, instead of defense you could do magic defense instead, weapon accessory, HP, attack, and skill, or on the accessory you can do defense instead. With the Arena Stones, you can do an offensive or a defensive set, or you can try to do a balanced set, which I would say would include HP, attack, defense, magic defense, or crit damage reduction, and then crit damage. It's better to have crit damage on him because he has attacking skills that help increase the crit rate. His best soldier includes the Star Prism of Pegasus for more damage. You got the Mechanical Knight who can attack very well while having physical damage reduction. Still Winged Warrior the same thing, but they survive better against ranged attacks. The Cavalier to lower attack and defense within 2 blocks, so they can somewhat survive well, but attacking wise, they're pretty good. Mechanical Knight for the mobility. Bang Guard, they can tank and attack well. They reflect melee attacks and heals a tiny portion of HP. If you think that you'll have him in this Lancer class the majority of the time, then Gallant Duelist for attacking. They also have physical damage reduction if you're lucky. The State Guard also for attacking, and they can counterattack very well. Then you got the Guardian Infantry for the physical survivability. Just make sure to keep their HP above 80%. His best weapon is Ragnarok. He can use Crystal Stinger for the crit and defense ignore. I will recommend having a bunch of skill on him if you plan to do so. Bone Crusher for the defense and armor drop. Routing Light for the damage ramping. Mona to dispel buffs. Last Justice to lower attack and ends. Then Sealed Guardian. Something defensive would include the Mimir for the healing if an ally dies, which also increases the damage. Sigil that increases defense, which also does fixed damage. Thorn Guardian for the HP. Dragon Slayer that gives 8% attack and HP. And Broken Star, which is exactly like the Sealed Guardian, but the only difference is that this one has more HP compared to it, whereas the Sealed Guardian would have a bit more attack. For the armor, Last Rites is an obvious choice. You'll most likely survive being one-shot with this. He can even use battle armor if you don't have that one. Those would be his top choices. You also can use the Time Mat to take less magic damage, only if you're in mixed forces. Then Azure Legend, Aeola's Bloodline, lastly the Lizard Skin. For the helmet, his exclusive is going to be his best choice. It increases his talent range, which helps with one of his new guard skill. So having this will make it very easy for you to position your team around. If you don't really care about that, then you have Tier 4 damage. Some survivability options are Aeneas for the huge HP and defense, Battleground for a chunk of defense and magic defense if his HP is higher, Flower for the healing if his HP is below 50%, then lastly, Snow Beanie for the extra defense when being attacked, if you're lucky that is. With the accessory, if you enjoy seeing high damage numbers, then Judge, Slayers, or Prisoners will suit you. Some situational ones that helps maintain your attack are Ring of Shin Guard for the defense and being attacked. I would say that one is your go-to choice. The Bloodthirsty now gives silence immunity, which is a thing that he already has whenever he carries his new guard skill, as well as Backtrack Edge. His skill already has cooldown on them as long as you kill something. Some bulky options are Overlord Badge to prevent stat down and mobility. His 3C command effect already does that, but in his flyer class you won't have that, since most of the time you are going to be using flyer soldiers. Butterfly to have 1 immunity, then heals if it triggers. There's Swordsmith Metal for the fixed damage and silence immunity. Even though, like I said earlier, he already has that on his guard skill, so just having it for the fixed damage immunity would be something really nice for him. I would even say Bonner of Arashi for the stun and passive immunity. This one I feel like it's gonna be really huge on him, because one of the new skill that he gets is a passive that lets him ignore guard. As for enchants, either Breeze or Full Moon. Full Moon is something that a lot of people are going to be using. It gives 10% to your stats if your HP is above 80%. Pretty basic, but it does cover both of his playstyles, so it fits really well. The kind of enchant stat that you want is HP attack, defense, and magic defense. You always want to focus on a bunch of HP attack no matter what. Getting that third stat usually counts as a bonus since it can get really expensive. So hopefully you guys have an idea on how to build your SP Lanford. No weakness stage for this one unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure I already have a old video about him. I feel like I did one unlocking it for him, so feel free to check that out if you want to. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right on into his showcase. Alright, so here we are. Let's go ahead and take a look at his new and improved talent. So he has ignore skill cost and more damage dealt. He has all stats increase for allies within 2 blocks or within 3 blocks if he has his exclusive. Allies in mixed forces get 5% more and can attack first when initiating battle. After taking action, he can choose to switch into a Lancer class. That reduces mobility by 2, so he's gonna have 3 mobility while having damage reduction. It cannot be dispelled and ignores immunity, which can be cancelled again after using the skill again. So if we check out what SP Lanford has, you can see that he starts off with a few buffs. So straight up tells you the stat increase, really tells you that you're eligible to attack first, even his casting skill too, as well as having the stat immunity thing, which comes from his 3C. If you have his exclusive, it does stretch up to 3 blocks. So Liana has exactly what SP Lanford has. But what does it look like when an ally isn't in mixed forces? Well, if we take a look at this Cavalry, he's only affected by the stat increase, which is a 50% instead of the 20%, and we see the casting. And in his turn, we can see a unique skill that will change his class type into a Lancer. So we do go ahead and click it and confirm it. He uses Martial of Valor, which changes the way how his sprite looks. We check out SP Lanford again, and he has another unique buff, which is the skill that he used. If you want to change it back, you can do it right away after the next time you can use him, and it will cancel out Martial of Valor. And then he changes back into a Flyer while losing that buff to reduce his damage taken. There's a lot of advantages that he has that really encourages you to do so. Attacking first allows you to be pretty safe, and a crit, if you're lucky with it, will help keep you healthy. But yeah, with this new and improved talent, it's something that he really needed because he has so many good ones to choose from. He's able to dish out more damage while picking up a new role. One of the new skills that he gets is a passive that lets him guard nearby allies, immune to displacement effects, and immunity to being silenced. It's a guard skill that reaches based on his talent command range, that reduces damage taken and adds 15% of his attack to his defense and magic defense for 4 turns. You know how funny that sounds? So he gets a 40% damage reduction on top of getting some insane defense and magic defense. And plus with the stat increase too to help all of that, I wouldn't even know how much damage resist that is in total. So yeah, now we take a look at his buff, you can see all that he was given, which is easily dispellable, which is the worst thing about it, which is the case for most of his skills that you want to bring with him. But the biggest thing is him being able to guard all kinds of attack within 3 blocks. The only character that really do that is Vargas. But Vargas is really like unreliable because for him it's only for physical attacks. Lanford can guard for all kinds of attack, and so with this kind of range, positioning around Lanford is going to be so much more accessible. It's going to be so much more easy for you to navigate the way how you want to approach things and position. Even being this Lancer class, it doesn't really affect his damage. It doesn't really affect like his playstyle. It's just more like he's a lot more slower. So if you really want to tank stuff, just make sure that you're always in this Lancer class with an extra damage resist. Basically, the way how you want to do things with him is use his Supplier class to easily move around things, and then switch to his Lancer class whenever you want to play defensive. Really simple as that. Carrying his at the again skill is something that's really going to be beneficial for you if you want to pull this off. Even better if you are using Flyer Soldiers 2 in the first place, so that you get that mixed force benefit. So what you'll see from him is him closing in his Flyer class, at the again, switch it to his Lancer class, and then do some damage. He has the potential to one-shot while being able to take a hit. And if you check out his other new one, this thing is a full-on passive skill that increases his crit rate and crit damage by 20%. If there's an ally mixed forces within 3 blocks, when actively attacking, he ignores guard in battle. When he lands a crit, he gets a 30% damage reduction. for 1 turn. Yeah, this skill kinda sucks, but also really rewarding. So Elwin is guarding right now, he is guarding for Leanna, but thanks to Leanna being nearby, we are able to straight up ignore guard. So yeah, this skill is really something. I mean, yeah, those crits are really nice, but to effectively use this, it requires quite a bit of planning. Especially if you want to be like full on offensive with SP Lanford, then yeah, good luck trying to pull it off. But I do want to add on more things about SP Lanford that I want to talk about. It's like, sure that he doesn't have a revive, all the stuff that SP Lanford has really makes up for it. There's a lot of optimal ways of using SP Lanford. So it's really hard to like choose what you really want. You know, to be offensive, you really want to use the Star Prisma or Cavalier, heck, even Mechanical Knights too, in like specific maps. And the skills would be something like his 3C, Chivalry, and his faction buff, or you can do Chain Lightning instead of his 3C. A skill that's more preferable because it has a really good kill confirm because of the fixed damage. You can do like 2 before battle with the Ragnarok, and then another one after battle if you crit. Even with cooldown 2 if you kill, so there's some consistency right there. I would not go with Javelin, it's a really weak skill, or instead of the faction buff, you can use something like his passive. Or if you really want to go defensive, then I would recommend his guard skill, faction buff, and then his 3C for the stat immunity, which can be provided for his teammates as well. Or maybe instead of the 3C, you can go with Chivalry to act again, to get your skill back, and extra healing if you need it. You can do a flex too with his guard skill, faction buff, and his attacking skill. There's a lot of ways you can go about using him, because his role is specifically being a offensive support tank. So your choices here feel limitless. Say a really good variety of skill sets, really good soldier choices. The amount of choices that you have with them is pretty insane. It feels endless with them. Okay, so I know the showcase was pretty short, but I think it's better overall that I talk about what SP Lanford is all about in the conclusion. I honestly think it's better off to do it this way, and I'll do my best to edit like a compilation of the ways how SP Lanford is going to be used. And all I'm gonna say is that he is pretty amazing. His role as this offensive support tank is impressive. I'm shocked they gave him so much necessities to fulfill those roles. You know, the Flyer class is one of the best offensive class types, their mobility is the best in the game, his new talent is a better overall improvement, can attack first, self-healing from his casting skill, and able to switch to a Lancer class to focus on defense, then switch back to being a Flyer for attacking, or just moving around. It's honestly my favorite part about him. Him being a tank is really surprising. They really gave him what he really needs to fulfill it, like having more defense and magic defense from his new guard skill, that 40% damage res, has stat immunity from his 3C, plus he can guard from 3 range thanks to his exclusive, because his guard range is based on his command effect. So it makes positioning with him so much more accessible. The kind of support that he can provide are his faction buff, the all stats increase, the 3C, self-healing, mostly of everything from his talent. Although if you do want to get the extra benefit from him, it is kind of a problem. You know, if you want to get the 5% extra stat increase and to attack first, you gotta be in mixed forces, even with the stat immunity too, which is kind of annoying because some characters don't really want that. Even Lanford himself on certain maps, which is why using his act again skill would be super beneficial because he can act again, switch to being Lancer, and then he's now in mixed forces. To get the self-healing, you gotta crit. To use his new passive skill that lets him ignore guard, he needs an ally, and that ally needs to be in mixed forces within 3 blocks. It's just really annoying to set up. I think my problem with SP Lanford is mostly his ability as an attacker. It kind of feels generic unless you crit and in mixed forces. If you want to play around that new ignore guard skill, that takes some planning. I actually like him as a tank more because you can play around him differently compared to most of the relevant tanks. It actually feels unique with him, and I feel more incentivized to do so because his support is just that good. He's still very capable at his role, being the support DPS, support tank, being a hybrid. He's very self-sufficient, he can do his own thing, very defensive with strong support that's advantage to himself and his teammates. You'll see positive results from him. As an attacker in regular content, definitely. As a tank there, not bad. In PvP though, I say the best thing from him is him being as a tank, while being an alright attacker. But nonetheless, he's now a great viable option to use. Alright, so that was SP Lanford's showcase. I would say he would be pretty insane at regular content. He's not bad to use in PvP. I feel like his tanking potential shines a lot better there compared to his offensive playstyle. I think doing that really takes some planning and adjustments if you want to feel like something truly unique about him. It's also pretty funny seeing that people forget that he can guard from 3 blocks, which I don't really blame them. It's really uncanny seeing that nowadays. Getting SP Lanford is definitely worth the trouble to get, especially if you like the strategy team a lot or just like the character in general. He's probably going to be one of the few SP characters that I would recommend, or if you need some of the other better ones like SP Sherry, then I wouldn't stress it. It's just that with Lanford, you have more options to justify using him. But that's all I got. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about SP Lanford, or if there was anything more that you guys would like to add. So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.